Hey, welcome to Security and GRC Decoded. I'm your favorite host, Raj Krishnamurthy. And today we have awesome Ramya Subramanian with us. Ramya has an interesting career. She's a network engineer turned security and GRC operator, a practitioner. Ramya has more than 19 years of experience in engineering, security, and GRC space. She's currently the director of GRC and Privacy Operations at Freshworks. Ramya, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be part of this podcast, Raj. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
having me.
So, how did a network engineer become a GRC practitioner?
Awesome. So there is a bit of a story that I want to tell. I started off my career as a network engineer, as you mentioned, right? So it was through a college campus recruitment, and that was the second company I sat for. So the first company was for a role of software engineer, and I'm glad I did not make it through that role because I don't think I'm set to do coding all day. It's not just my cup of tea. So I'm very thankful that I landed in the network engineering space. So I think to start off my career with the network engineering background, it gave me a lot of basics, right? You need to understand networking if you have to excel in security. That's my opinion. You need to understand the basics, IP subnetting, how networks work for you to understand security. So uh, eventually, I kind of moved to security implementations, did all the downtimes, configuring devices, and then moved on to the vulnerability assessments and pen tests of the world, and then finally landed up in GRC. And that's when I realized that this is my space, this is my arena that I wanted to excel in. So that's how, from network engineer to a security engineer and then to a GRC practitioner, that's how I rolled into this
And
role.
the, and the and your first role as a GRC practitioner was with R.R. Donnelly,
Absolutely, yes.
and then you moved into Freshworks, right?
Fresh. That is
And
right.
all of this you did this being in India. Is that
Being in
right?
India.
Beautiful.
No, it's a combination. So with Wipro, absolutely, I was in India and then the US for some time. But the rest of it, it's just India. Yeah, I just traveled around for audits and stuff, but it was predominantly in India.
Got it. So, as an engineer, as is there any particular advantage that you have being a GRC practitioner, in your opinion?
I think it is not any basic degree that gives you that advantage. It's just the experience that you gather as you move forward gives you that advantage, is what I feel. It's not just about the degree, Raj. That's my humble opinion.
Okay. So maybe what is your opinion of G and R and C? Ramya, how do you define G, R, C?
I think we've got it really wrong, at least the order. To me, risk comes first all the time, right? All these times we've always been compliance driven, and that's why GRC wasn't uh, embedded into the product operations, embedded into the organization's culture. It was always compliance driven. But I think we are changing the focus, shifting the focus to risk driven these days. To me, risk is where you start. That's where you understand what's going to impact your crown jewels. And then you write policies and standards in order to protect your crown jewels, right? So risk is the foundation to me. And then you move on to governing, right, policy standards, and then measure what you have implemented. And then comes the compliance. So like when you're doing the risk and compliance right, risk and governance right, that's when compliance automatically lands into your portfolio.
No, I love it. I love it. So, when you think about risk, Ramya, how do you think about risk from a quantification and a qualification perspective? How much of risk in reality is quantification versus not?
Quantification is still a very niche concept, right? Qualitative analysis is what we've always been exposed to. It's always the heat maps that we work with, high, medium, lows. That's what people understand these days. But it's just not enough anymore. You have to probably reiterate to your leadership or the boards to make them understand the cyber risk exposure of you not having a control or you not having implementing a set of controls, right? So, to me, quantification is the way forward. There are tools that are offering, there are frameworks that you can adapt. But to me, we have to make that shift from qualitative to quantitative eventually. That's when the real worth of GRC and the risk remediations will start to evolve, is what my opinion is.
Okay. And what are the challenges with maybe can you, if you feel comfortable sharing, can you break down, when I think of risk quantification as an audience and the listener, how do you quantify risks?
Absolutely. So, to me, first you understand the nature of risk, and then what are the controls implemented in your space, in your organization, and see the effectiveness of the controls. Anyways, it starts with the control effectiveness, right? And then you move on to understanding the revenue of your company, and also to understand what could go wrong if you're not complying with the controls, the penalties that comes with all these compliance violations. So I think quantification is a combination of all these. When you have the controls in place, when you have the revenue information in place, you mix and match all of this to understand your cyber exposure, the loss exposure that you're going to incur eventually. So that's how I see quantification. But today, what we're doing is just understanding the control effectiveness against a particular risk and then see if the risk is high, medium, or low. Until we incorporate that finance numbers, I don't think you will end up understanding the real impact of what that risk could get you.
Got it. Got it. So let me make sure I understand, because typically we maintain a risk catalog and we have a listing of all the risks.
Yep.
And then we typically try to say what is the degree of impact of that risk if that were to materialize. And you
Yep.
talk about likelihood, right? And then it becomes a very basic math of likelihood times impact. What you're basically saying is that look at it from make sure that you associate dollars to each of those risk element from an impact perspective is what I'm hearing. Is that right?
That is
Now,
right.
what are the typical challenges in making that happen? How do you collect that data?
That is where the real problem is, right? We're not mature enough. A lot of organizations, small startups, they're not mature enough to have that metrics in place to even see the control effectiveness in a particular time, right? So we are all point in time audits based. We have audits throughout the year happening, but it's not measuring the control effectiveness through the year. That's one data we're not getting effectively, which is making it real difficult for us to quantify the risk. And also the sustainability of having these numbers and then constantly putting it into the calculations and then identifying it in a real time is a real challenge. So which is why I think a lot of teams are not able to adopt to the quantitative aspects of it. And we do not have a lot of tools in play. That there are tools, but they are complicated. That's not user friendly for everyone to understand how revenue works, how penalties works, how the control effectiveness works, and it's not completely automated. So to me, that makes it very difficult. So GRC folks are not someone who reads JSON, XML, and all of that, right? So you need to have some technical aspects of it to understand the metrics and incorporate that with the financial aspects as well. So that's the real struggle that I see.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you is that I think if I can articulate here correctly, is that when we think about audits, we think of it primarily from a perspective of compliance. When we think of GRC, I think you can approach from two perspectives. One, you can approach from the perspective of audits,
Yep.
and one you can approach from a perspective of assurance. What you're basically saying is that if you use audits as a means to measure risks, it is less infrequent, extremely manual. As a result, it is not sort of a continuous process, right?
Absolutely.
And you're basically saying, I think what you're advocating is that the right way to do it is almost make it a continuous, as almost like a continuous part of your operations, and try to measure these risks continuously. Am I
Absolutely.
hearing that right? Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think a big part of that is data collection, I would assume, right? I mean, you need to be able to make sure that you collect data. So why are companies not? I mean, maybe I can understand why small companies cannot do that, but how about bigger companies? What is the struggle in them in making this happen? from an operations perspective? Why not collect the data continuously, and why not evaluate the risks continuously?
I think, uh, how do I put it? So, metrics is something that needs to be a very matured program, which is not the case in a lot of these organizations, right? Even bigger companies. How if we can't measure what we are doing, I mean, then we really do not know what the effectiveness is, right? So, the constant, continuous collection of data, not having real tools in place to constantly collect that information, I think that's what it makes it very difficult for even the smaller companies and the larger companies as well. So, there is a tool probably that could help us in terms of constantly collecting these evidences and keep it ready for your GRC folks to consume. Probably that's what is missing, is what I understand.
I see. I see. Okay. Maybe I'll switch the slightly differently, Ramya. What is your opinion of the relationship between GRC and security?
I think GRC is a, a a connect, a conduit between a lot of different teams that see risk in a different perspective, right? I mean, HR sees it differently, security engineering sees differently, and different teams look at risk differently. I think GRC is one team that can connect all of these and then kind of see patterns and see in a big picture of what a risk can do to the organization. So this is the one team that touches every other teams in the organization and then kind of bring them together for a larger cause. That's how I
Got it.
see.
Got it. So GRC is an aggregator. I mean, you're essentially pulling together all these different disciplines uh,
Absolutely.
to measure and monitor. Um, how do you think others see GRC? Um, let's say, let's talk about your product organization or your leadership teams, right? Or even security teams. What do you think is their view of GRC?
Let's be honest, right? You ask 10 different people of what GRC is, and you're going to get 12 different answers from them, right? What GRC is about. So, some people think we're just writing policies, others think we just do audits, some think we do spreadsheets and documents all the time. But to me, the reality of GRC is incredibly broad. It's about understanding the risks of the organization, right? That's what is the primary thing that I think of GRC is. And then policies, there's compliance, there is privacy, there's control frameworks, and awareness, vendor reviews, and none of it optional anymore, right? Like these are all like embedded in your organization's culture all of these days. So, to me, the perception is evolving. It is still not in the not always very clear to folks outside of what we kind of do. But I think when GRC is done right, then it's a lot of relationship building. It's a ton of pattern recognition that we do in the back end to connect the dots. There could be something going wrong with one space, which could be a larger issue. When you connect that dots, you kind of understand, right? So I think the perception is evolving. People are not thinking that GRC is just a process oriented anymore, a process oriented function anymore. But GRC is much more from my perspective, but the view is evolving as we speak. That's what I feel.
Got it. And what can be done to so maybe I'll double click on that. When you say view is evolving, are you saying the current view about, if you are in product or engineering, about GRC, is that it is a necessary evil sort of a function? Is that a am I going too far when I say that?
No, I think that's the perception people have, right? It's a policing function. It's
It's a policing function.
that's how people think. So I think how we can change the perception is by start speaking human, stop all these compliance jargons, and kind of talk about the impact, talk about the risk, talk about how a risk can have saved your company or how a risk could put your organization into a a dangerous spot, right? So when you kind of build that relationship, do a bit of PR, and then talk to people, I think then it kind of evolves. That's really what I feel. And
Got it. Got it.
yeah.
So I think this goes back to your earlier comment. So your point is that when I say GRC, you say compliance is typically what you're saying. People think about, and as a result, they see this as a policing function. and
Absolutely.
I think there is a lot. I think by constant evangelism, right? I think you use the word PR. That's a brilliant word. I think you are essentially you have to put GRC in the right light and present it in the right light across the organization. Um,
Absolutely.
the one
And
of the
how it can help is also like not by writing a 30-page policy documentation and all of that, and then break it down like 1 hour of awareness training and 30-page policy documents like makes it you not no showing up a real friendly face of yours, right? Probably break it down, break it into a digestible format for people to consume, and probably that's a way forward. You make bite-sized videos for people to understand the real risk, real impact, instead of just putting them to death by giving that 1 hour training that nobody really understands, nobody really watches it. So I think we have to evolve as a function as well, and see what are the challenges that the other teams are facing because of how we perceive GRC, right? So I think that evolution has to be mutual. We have to step outside of our comfort zone, what we've been doing all this while, and then kind of expect the same from the rest of the departments as
got it.
well.
I think when we spoke last time, you said something very interesting in this space, especially around security awareness and some of the things that you have done at Freshworks. Maybe for our audience, I want to maybe double click, right? Maybe if you can take the specific challenge that you saw with security awareness and especially around policy management, and what did you do to simplify? I think that can be super helpful.
Absolutely. So, to start with security awareness, we understood the real pain of watching a video. I mean, no, but today's attention span is probably to like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, not more than that, right? And when you give them a 1 hour video to watch, I mean, it's kind of put that effort to useless stuff, right? So nobody is really watching it. Everyone's just snoozing and then moving on to the next work. So it's not the efforts are not getting realized. So that's a pain point that we had. And that's when we thought, I mean, we have to break this chain, right? And then make it bite sized for everyone. So anything that you see at Freshworks, it's not more than 4 minutes videos, right? And it's not a annual exercise. It's kind of continuous. We do it monthly, a reinforcement of a particular theme, and then do it by making a poster which is very eye catching, and you have contests and you have videos that we shoot internally within Freshworks, and then kind of publish it so people are able to connect with you, people are able to connect to the real security team and kind of understand what these topics are, what these risks are. So that's how I think we've broken down the security awareness piece. And to talk about the policy again, right? So nobody reads policies anymore, right? So it's all legal jargons and compliance words. Nobody understands. It's like your iTunes agreement. Everyone knows it exists, but they do not read it. They just click
Mhm.
accept, move on.
You
So
click accept.
and click accept and move on. So that's what happened, right? So what we did was a workshop, probably a 5-day workshop to rewrite our entire policies and then standards, and then we cut down so much words, like from 60,000 to probably 3,000 to 5,000 words, to that extent. Right now our policies and standards are like Tirukural, like 2 lines, and it just has about 10 controls where it's readable, it's digestible, and they are controls which are measurable as well. So to me, you break it and make it easy for the teams to consume. That's when I think they are going to put the trust on you, and then they come to you even before the disaster happens. Otherwise, I mean, GRC is a team where they're brought in only after a disaster happens, right? When an incident happens. But I think this is how you build relationship with the end users that makes them trust you more.
Got it. And then what is the role of auditors? Because while this is happening, your audit cycles are continuing to happen as well, right? So
Absolutely.
how did you bring in auditors into this entire discussion?
So, I think it was a bit of a challenge, right? Our your compliance says you have to do a mandatory 1 hour training annually, right? But we don't have that anymore. So, it took a bit of a time for us to socialize this with the auditors. But I think when you put it in the right note and the right light, and the and showcase the effects and the impact that this is creating, I think the auditors understand as well. I mean, we have moved on from the traditional way of doing audits to something modern. I mean, your general auditors do not like if your policy documents are small or your security awareness training is small and it's bite sized, right? So, but you bring them along with you, along with your journey, and that's how it's going to work. I mean, if you're in one plane and your auditors and assessors are in another plane, it's definitely not going to work. I think we have to evolve as an industry together rather than just doing it in silos.
Got it. Freshworks is a software company, right? And I think software is eating the world. AI is eating the world now. We'll talk about AI and your perspectives on this. But the big theme that we hear, especially from software companies, is this engineer style, right? The time that engineers spent on security and GRC, right, compliance, risk, or whatever, because they don't see that as productive time.
Yep.
Have you heard this from your constituents in engineering on this term called compliance style, and what is your take on it?
Absolutely. I think it is real, right? The amount of audits that we go through in a year, the amount of certifications that each company has, put engineers and the other stakeholders with a lot of turmoil, right? It's definitely real, right? You keep asking the same evidences, you keep asking the same screenshots over and over. I mean, anyone tends to get irritated and frustrated as well. So I think this can only be overcome by automating. To me, that's the way forward. Until you have automations in place which can fetch you all the evidences by itself and not bothering your human resources anymore, I think that's a way forward. And I think we have taken that step. In terms of automating controls in a smaller way. And then eventually, I mean, we wanted to make it big, but I think we have taken that uh, path right now. And I think all the organizations should take that path so that the engineers and even your GRC folks' time is put to good use and not just sitting and doing the mundane work.
Got it. Got it. And what do you see as the current state of tools, the GRC platforms, if you will? You don't have to name names, but generally speaking, what do you see as the current state with respect to automation?
I think we've evolved so much. Back then, we did not have a tool that it was just workflow automation. I mean, we didn't have a lot of sophisticated integrations with other security tools or other tools that are used in the company, right? So I think we've evolved so much. These days, tools are much more sophisticated and bring you that uh, uh, a glassy UI where you can see everything about your compliance requirements and you integrate with every single tool that's there in your organization to bring in that no data to one platform, right? I think we have come to a much better space than where we were like 6 years back. I think
Got it.
tools are great these days, and yeah.
So you're saying the tools have already caught up to where you want it to be in terms of automation.
I think we are getting by. I wouldn't say it's completely there. There are a lot of use cases, and the tools concentrate more on the technical aspects of it, right? When you're connecting with other tools, you pull in data for the technical configurations, but there aren't many tools to understand the process within the
Uh
organization. To
huh.
me, that's a major space, right? 50% of technical controls and 50% of process controls is what we have in our organization. But there is nothing on the process space at this point in time. Very, very few tools, but which is still not that sophisticated from my perspective. So
That
that's what we are missing, and that's what we need to focus on.
I think that's a great point. That's a great point because one of the constant themes that I've heard from some of our other guests, and we frankly see in the industry as well, is that a lot of the automation needs to be contextual, and there is
Yep.
no one size fits all because every company has you don't build software products, you don't build products because you have to pass compliance, you build products because you have to serve your customers, and those design choices are very contextual to the industry you are in and the problem that you're trying to solve, right? So
Absolutely.
how do you is this also a problem that you see where the automation has to evolve, where it is not just a black box one size fits all, but allows you to be able to contextualize that to your environment?
Absolutely. I mean, there are tools where you are able to give that tool your context on what you and your organization perceive as a risk, right? So that's kind of very important. Otherwise, anything and everything is a finding in when it comes to automation and tools, right? So you need to give it that context. I wouldn't say we are there 100% of giving that context to these tools. But I think we are at least midway. We are able to give some context for the tools to understand and kind of interpret how they are giving the findings. So
Got
we
it.
are probably in the midway, is what I feel.
So I wanted to point to you. So we had some very interesting guests on our show where I think you have some of the guests making an argument that the GRC team has to evolve into an engineering discipline, meaning they have to sort of have the skills to automate. Not that the entire GRC team has to become engineering, but their argument is that GRC teams have to be self sufficient with automation. And there are other part of the guests who say that that's not the role of the GRC team. That sits with control owners, whether it is security engineering or application security or product security or application engineering, wherever that is, right? What is your take, Ramya? Where should automation sit for it to be effective?
I think GRC engineering is a beautiful way of doing this, right? It's not enough for us to just have our policies in a shared drive and hope people remember to upload that quarterly evidences periodically, right? So it's not enough anymore. So you're essentially, you have to wire risk awareness into your business. So that's when the GRC is going to work out in future, is what I really feel. So GRC engineering is a function that every organization must have, because you always cannot depend on someone for your automations, right? You definitely need automations. You need to build everything in your pipeline so that compliance checks happen as part of the coding, as part of the design. Because I mean, you only have 10 people in your GRC team, and then there are 1,500 developers, 2,000 developers that are developing products, and it's not scalable, right, for you to sit in every single conversation. So automation is the key, and that can only happen if you have an engineering function for GRC. So that, and
Beautifully.
if you're embedding it into the process in the design, and people don't even realize that they are doing GRC, right? It just happens.
Got
So
it.
that's a way forward.
I think what you're saying is something very interesting. You're saying the engineering is a process driven GRC engineering, is what I'm hearing, right?
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful statement. Uh, Ramya, how much of GRC in your world today, if you were to sort of put them into buckets, how much of GRC time is spent on security versus non-security? Maybe I'll put IT and security into the bucket, right? The technical aspects of GRC versus the non-technical controls of GRC.
I think technical, it's 50-50, right? To me, that's how I perceive. 50% of all the GRC done is technical. So you need people to understand these technicalities and the environment better. And the other part, 50% is non-technical, is what I really feel, because that involves your HR controls, your physical controls. There are a lot of other controls where you need a different perspective altogether. So you
Got it.
wear different glasses when you kind of look at these technical and non-technical controls throughout.
Got it. And in that remaining 50%, do you also account for the financial controls, like the segregation of duties between accounts payable and accounts receivable, things like that, right? Is that something that you deal with as a team, or do you primarily deal with HR and cybersecurity?
No, I think access is basic, right? Your when you have right access, that means you have a right SOD built into the access, right? That's when you are avoiding no troubles when you are implementing the right access controls. To me, I think it's a space that GRC should have visibility into, and they are the ones that needs to build these SODs and the access controls as well. So
Got it. Got it. So, given that 50% of these controls are IT and security controls, cybersecurity controls, that is, how technical do you think the GRC team should be?
I think they don't need to write codes. They don't, but they need to understand the environment that they are in, right? So they need to be technical enough to understand the components that are running in your environment. They need to be technical enough to understand what issues, what risks we could run into if this is not working 100% anymore. So I think it's you do not get deeply into technical, but rather learn everything. So to for you to be a seasoned security professional, I think you need to do a bit of security engineering, sit on calls to understand what's how your company is doing business, right? So I think it's a bit of everything is what I feel, Raj. So it's not like you learn technical and you're good. You need to understand every single process in your organization. So learn everything.
Got it. Maybe I'll rephrase the question. I think that's a fantastic answer. So, if you were to hire in your team right now, what would you look for? And I think it's a sort of a very broad question. What would you look for in that person in this middle sort of intermediate experience, right, that you're trying to hire into your team? What would you look for in this person? What sort of skills do you expect this person to have?
So, see, GRC is a space or one of the rare fields where your knowledge isn't directly proportional to your experience, right? When just because someone has been doing this for 10 years doesn't mean that they know how everything works, that they are ahead. Because what we know 5 years ago might be completely irrelevant now. So I think when I hire people, I look for not the number of years, not the number of certifications that they hold or any technical jargons on their resume, but I look for the curiosity, the openness to learn. Because I mean, you have to unlearn and relearn what you've been doing all this while. So 5 years back, there was no cloud. But today, everything is on cloud. Today, we have AI. So you constantly need to learn a lot of things, right? Unlearn and relearn. So to me, that's what I look for. I look for people that can break down complex situations into sound simple, that can explain things in a better way, that has a right attitude and abilities to convince a person, or that has a lot of curiosity and ask right questions. So those are the qualities that I actually look for. Technical, you can learn anytime. Frameworks, you can learn anytime. Risk, you can try and understand. But that perspective you need to have in order for you to learn all these is what I look for when I hire people.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. So, I think all of us have become sort of AI consumers of some way, shape, or form, right? And companies have taken generative AI first, generative AI native. All these terms are coming about. I'm reminded 10 years ago of all these cloud jargons, and I think we are getting revisited with all the AI jargons now. What do you see the effect of AI in terms of software development, the engineering teams using it, the operations team using it, the security teams using it? What is the effect of those things on the GRC team?
So I myself, I use Gen AI all the time, right? Right from drafting policies or summarizing any audit responses or helping me interpret that long documents, right? So I use AI all the time. So it's about the trick is to accelerate and not replace. So you accelerate everything that's happening using AI, but not replace. Because I think see generative AI is here to stay. It's not going to go forever. So the role of GRC when it comes to generative AI is to not panic, rather govern this behavior smartly, right? So you write safe guidelines of how to use it safely, and then embed Gen AI into your processes with a lot of intention and not panic or a fear or anything of that sort, and govern this behavior smartly. I think everyone should use AI to make it simple for them, make it easy for no to cut down all the repetitive work, mundane work, but use it judiciously. That's probably
Judiciously,
the
that's a great word, judiciously. Now, when you say accelerate, not replace, are you saying not replace humans? Is that what you're saying?
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So let it write your first draft, but you have to put your brain in terms of fine tuning it, right? So, to me, it won't replace the judgment, the context, that the relationships that you're building. It can never do that. I mean, it's still those are still like 100% human stuffs, right? So you can only use it to accelerate what you're doing.
Got it.
Uh,
Got it. No, makes sense. I think the intent behind my question was that I remember when cloud hit us, and I've been an engineer, right? I've not been a sort of a compliance practitioner in my early part of my life. The one of the significant challenges was that GRC was used to static environments, physical machines, virtual machines, and even virtual is not that static. But I think when cloud hit, right, the surface area just exploded, and the GRC teams were trying to figure out how to readjust them into the cloud world. That was 10 years ago. Now Gen AI is making that explosion even further, right? I mean, if the divide was big, now the divide is huge, right? So my question, the intent behind the question is this causing a chasm between the speed at which the applications are being developed and the nature of and the speed at which the GRC teams need to keep up and the security teams need to keep up as well? Are you seeing that friction today? And what is your view?
Absolutely. I think we're all not well versed with AI, at least in terms of putting it to good use to govern things, putting it to good use to secure things, right? Gen AI is currently used, I mean, AI is being used for developing applications in every single space. But are we really putting it to right use in our security teams to help it no, govern better or keep it secure better? I don't think we are at there. We are still catching up, is what I feel. I think it's a long way to go for the security teams, the GRC teams, to embed AI into their routine to make sure things are working better.
Got it. Got it. If if I were to ask you to dream, Ramya, and what would be a dream GRC solution for you? What would it look like?
Okay, so okay, my dream solution is then not going to have any work for the GRC itself. Then
It
so
is
now the PRC team is just going to build relationships and then take whatever the tool is going to give you and then take it back to the teams and then explain it in a way that teams understand and build that relationships. Probably I'm looking at a solution that's going to be very evolving in nature, it's customizable in nature, where your organization's framework, because organizations cannot or do not generally pull in all the frameworks and then directly use them, right? You have to customize it to your business perspective, business context, and all of that. So the tools have to have that contextual idea of what your business is and then what your risks are for your particular environment, industry that you belong to, and then put that context into your risk management, right? So today everything is a vulnerability, everything is an issue, everything is a finding, but is it now you will have to put the organization context. Is this no storing any sensitive information? Is this within your internal network that it's not no exposed to a no external network? So you have to put all that organizational context into the GRC tool for it to be able to 100% do what you're doing, what the GRC folks are currently doing right now, right? That's the I mean, the intelligence that the GRC folks are bringing in. So you have something from the tool, but you put your experience and you put your knowledge along with that tool findings, and then you present it. Today, it's always that mix of everything and then taking it back to the respective teams. My ideal GRC tool would be able to do all of that within the tool itself,
got
Raj.
it. Got it. No, I think that's a good answer. So, um, I think you talked about your perspective of a process contextual GRC engineering. If I can recap what you just said, I think one of the challenges that we see is that the GRC teams traditionally have not been equipped to handle this. And
Yep.
primarily from the perspective of building a business case, selling it internally, selling it upwards to their leaders, right?
Yep.
As a GRC leader, what do you expect your teams to bring you, right, to build this business case of automation effectively? And how would you build that business case to your leadership above?
I think it's all about the storytelling, right? You need to have that storytelling capability to bring this back with a little bit of risk context, right, to the leaders. To me, the compliance is growing. You're looking at no competitors and see what certifications do they hold, what compliances they are in, and then you try and catch up. But when you have these tools in place, it's actually going to help. So today there is regulation that's coming in, like for example, DORA. Tomorrow there is some other regulation coming in, but your now you have that time to take it back to shelf is longer than what you think, right? So you need to do a gap assessment in order for you to understand what you're missing out, and then no kind of do the implementation and then take it back to your customers. So to me, this is how I will sell probably, right? So my tool is going to help me uh, secure my compliance roadmap for the next 3 years, 4 years with this particular tool. So that's how I will be pitching, because I have my competitor analysis done and I have my compliance roadmap. In order for me to do this sustainably, I would need GRC tooling in place, which is going to help automate a lot of things that is currently being done by human.
Got it. Because when we think of the business case, Ramya, there are multiple vectors, right? One is how much is it reducing the toil for the non-GRC teams, your engineers, your operations, your security teams, whoever they are. Number two, how effective is it in helping you to go into new markets, right? As you expand the business into new markets.
Yep,
Number three, how do you cope up with the new requirements that are coming about, right? And
absolutely.
there are a bunch of things. How much do you time spend on audit, and all these different things, and how much is the toil on the GRC team itself, right?
Yep.
Is there, when you think about this from a business case perspective, are there vectors that are outsized in terms of impact than others?
Probably, can you rephrase your last sentence, Raj?
So
So
there are multiple line items in which you can build, show the value. Like I think you said it beautifully. It is about storytelling. And as you're trying to tell the story for the value that you're going to save over a 3 year roadmap of building an automation program or building a better GRC program. I don't want to just limit it to automation. Now we have
information, yeah.
generative AI. And and that could mean saving engineers time. That could mean saving time as you enter into new markets. That could mean saving time as you get into new regulations. That could mean saving time with auditors. That could mean saving time with the GRC teams, right? And not having to hire more folks.
Yep.
Are there particular line items that you think have a very outsized impact in the storytelling than others?
I think it's how much time you reduce for the non GRC folks, right? That
Mm.
to me is a huge thing today. I mean, they are the ones who go through this no turmoil and then hand you the evidences all the time. But to me, that's what I will be focusing on. It's going to reduce a lot of time for them to work on compliance requirements, and compliance would become then a process. It's not going to become a separate topic, because to me, for the non GRC folks, GRC or security is not their primary responsibility, right? They have their own responsibility of building a product, building a feature, revenue, and all of that. Now you're forcing them to do security as a separate no task, which I think is a big thing. We will have to focus on that, reducing that time taken for them to do all these compliances. To me, that's huge.
Got it. Now, the challenge, one of the challenges that I constantly hear, Ramya, is that the scope, right? So the GRC teams can understand very clearly that it's going to save time on the engineers. So a lot of value is accruing to the engineering team or the product team or the security teams. But how do they tell the story? But they're not responsible for it, right? So who is responsible for telling the story? Is it the GRC director like you? Is it the CISO who you roll up to? Or is it the VP of engineering? Who is supposed to tell the story?
I think uh, it's a collective bet, is what I feel, right? So everyone is going through frustration because of the evolving compliance need, and we are very nasal in terms of the automations and all of that. So it's a bit of everyone, is what I feel, right? But I think GRC being that conduit between all these different teams, GRC is in the space for us to take it back to the leaders board, and then kind of simplify it for the entire organization. I think we are the ones talking to everyone to understand their pain points, their risk nature. So it should be the GRC function and the GRC leaders for them to reach out to the leadership and the board to explain this
Got it.
better.
Got it. So I think it goes back to your earlier point where you are saying GRC is an aggregator, it's a catalyst of
Okay.
bringing all these different functions. You see this no different, right, from some of the other. Beautiful. Um, what do you see as the challenges as you embrace generative AI as a GRC leader, right? With asking your teams to embrace generative AI, trying to figure out how to cope up with generative AI that is being done by other teams. What do you see as the challenges when you work with auditors?
So I think the auditors need to grow along with us is a statement I said earlier, right? Somewhere that I see that as a challenge, right? While your organizations grow tenfold when it comes to AI and all of that, the auditors are still catching up. It could be controversial. This might ruffle a few feathers, but to me, I that's a real challenge, right? They still expect a lot of traditional controls in your space. They panic when you have generative AI in your space on how these are happening, right? So, to me, we need to approach with a lot of intention. Rather than fear and panic, as I mentioned earlier, even the auditors have to look at that way. Audits have to become like a value add to the organization controls, and not being that policing again. So how others perceive GRC, that's how GRC perceives auditors as well, right? So uh, it's a loop, right? So I think auditors have to evolve as well as the companies grow.
No, that's a great statement. Ramya, on a lighter note, I think a lot of what you have said is about storytelling, and I couldn't help but notice that you are doing a 4-year stint at as a city editor at Mom's Presso. What is that?
Okay, so I took a maternity break for my elder one and the little one. So that's a time. See, I'm a person, I cannot just sit idle. I wasn't idle, by the way, right? So I have two kids in my hand, but I
Absolutely.
think
Giving, I
I'm
wouldn't call that. I wouldn't call that giving birth. It is not idle.
no,
So it's far
exactly. So
from it.
I mean, at least from a work perspective, that's what I meant. I mean, otherwise, it's a dual role that you play, right? It's a overtime role that you play when you're a mother, you're a parent. So to me, that's when was always passionate about writing. At all my stages of life, I've been writing, right from um, well, my journal, my personal journal, right from my childhood, I write a personal journal. Then it moved to a gratitude journal. So all parts of my life had this writing as a passion, right? So I think then I picked it up in that time when I didn't have a lot of GRC stuff to do because I took a break. So I thought I could pursue my passion at that point in time. So Mom's Presso was this. Place where it's a space dedicated for parents and their kids. So it was the right time, and using my passion for the right cause. I think it was great. I was a correspondent and a city editor in Mom's Press, so writing articles. I even talked so much about cybersecurity. Um, how should it be taken back to the children? How important is security?
Beautiful.
It's securing, know everything that a child has, right? So everything about parents, kids, and then even a little bit of cybersecurity within that space.
No, that's a beautiful story, Ramya. I am reminded of. I don't know if you follow Andrej Karpathy, right? Karpathy. Last year, he said when prompting became this big thing and the reasoning models became more sophisticated, he said there is a new programming language in town. It's called English. So I think a lot of this falls into this idea of the futuristic way on how to sort of write better, how to express better, how to ask better, and it all comes down to stories, right? So, and I love it. We are almost approaching the end of the segment. We are approaching the end of the segment. Ramya, what I want to ask you is that maybe I want to give you 60 seconds. Any shout out to folks that have helped you get here, books that you read, videos that you watch, anything that you want our listeners to know that can help them better understand the space.
Absolutely. That's a great question, and I have a lot of inputs, but you have given only 60 seconds.
No,
Okay.
maybe no. You can take 2 minutes. That's totally fine.
No. So I'm a little old school. I don't do audiobooks. I need paper. I need to underline things. I need to dog ear pages and then scribble and all of that, right? So I need paper books. I need to read books, right? So there is something about just holding a book that makes it stick to me. So one book I recently read. This was a suggestion given by one of the leaders from my company. So it's called Smart Brevity. It how do you tell good stories in less words, right? So that's what this book is about. To me, it's a book that every GRC person has to read because people dread reading long documents, long audit reports. How to know cut short things without dumbing it down. Um, uh, like it kind of completely changed how I write for executives for various stakeholders that I deal with. So I think it's a great book that everyone should read.
Got
And
it.
to talk about people who have helped me get here, I've got great mentors through my life, right? So that's how I'm here. I think a mentorship is a great way for anyone who's starting, anyone who's there in the leadership or any phase of life, right? Talk to people, find a mentor. That's and probably do a lot of networking. It's the books and the conversations that kind of make you evolve as a person in any industry for that matter. So yeah, that's what I want to do. Just say and finish up.
Got it. Got it. No, I normally would end the podcast here, but given that you are from Freshworks, I cannot but ask this question, right? Which is Girish Mathrubootham called out Rajinikanth on the S1 filing, right? What
Yeah.
is the influence of Talaivar in Freshworks in the GRC function? And maybe let me contact for our listeners in the US or who are not from maybe India or Tamil Nadu. So Rajinikanth is the Chuck Norris of India, right? He is a huge idol, film movie star, and I think he's more than a movie star. I think it's an understatement to call him a movie star. And your CEO is a huge fan of Rajinikanth, so much so that he called him on his during the public filing, right? So
Yep.
what is the role of Rajinikanth, and maybe our listeners with Indian origin may appreciate it better. What is the role of Rajinikanth on the GRC function or at Freshworks in general? Influence.
Okay. So, you see Rajnikant everywhere when you enter our organization, right? At least the Madras campus, you see everywhere, right? So, to me, the influence is how can you be so humble even though you're a big star? To me, those are some small inspirations that we kind of draw from Rajnikant as a superstar. And then, yeah, that's probably it is because Girish mentions that all the time, right? He's so humble, yet he's a superstar, right? So that's the kind of energy we kind of draw
Got it.
from all the posters that we see around.
Got it. I would be Girish contemporary. I think we almost we I think we would be almost the same age. We graduated almost at the same time. And to put this in context, I used to be a huge Rajini buff when I was in college and school. So I can totally relate to it, but I had to ask you that question. So anyway, Ramya, thank you very much for being the show. This was a fantastic conversation, right? And I thoroughly loved it, and I hope our listeners did as well. So thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank